her knees scabbed from countless tumbles, and half-healed scratches crisscrossing her hands. Arya found herself in a relentless pursuit. Her current quarry, a one-eared black tomcat, a wily adversary in her training with Syrio Forel. Catching cats, she'd learned, was a deceptively difficult art. Early attempts had seen even the plump kitchen cat easily evade her grasp. As she stalked the elusive black tom, Arya's mind drifted back to a stinging memory, the day she'd first presented her bleeding hand to Syrio. He'd simply stated she was too slow, a stark warning that her true enemies would inflict far more than mere scratches. The Red Keep teemed with felines, and Arya had triumphantly delivered every single one to Syrio, save for this particular tom. A gold cloak had sworn the cat was older than sin and twice as mean, even claiming it had once brazenly snatched a quail from Lord Tywin's very fingers. Arya had chased the creature relentlessly, losing all sense of direction within the labyrinthine castle, but at last she had it cornered in a narrow alley. The tomcat, quick as a whisper, fainted, attempting to dart between her legs. But Arya was quicker. She snatched it, pulling the squirming creature into a tight embrace. A triumphant kiss pressed to its black fur. Her moment of victory, however, was abruptly shattered. "What is that boy doing with that cat?" A voice, clear and imperious, cut through the quiet alley. Princess Myrcella stood at the alley's end, flanked by Lannister household guards, a stern scepter, and Prince Tommen. Myrcella repeated her question, her tone laced with disdain. "A ragged boy with a cat?" Tommen echoed her sentiment with an eager nod. Arya paused, her gaze falling upon her own tattered, practical clothing. Silks and skirts were hardly suitable attire for catching cats. To avoid recognition, she swiftly dropped to one knee. The scepter, her face a mask of disapproval, declared that Arya had no business in this part of the castle. Arya knew that the moment she spoke, her voice would betray her. The scepter then commanded the guards to seize her. Panic surged through Arya. She twisted free from a guard's grasp, darted around the bewildered prince, and evaded the second guard. A short, breathless chase ensued until her eyes landed on a narrow window high above her, barely wider than an arrow slit. With a desperate leap, she grabbed the sill, pulling herself through, holding her breath until she was on the other side. Her frantic rush continued, leaving her disoriented in the pitch-black depths of a cellar. The chilling thought of being recognized gnawed at her. She listened intently, but the heavy silence of the cellar confirmed no one was pursuing her. The Red Keep, her father had always claimed, was smaller than Winterfell, yet her nightmares often depicted her lost within its endless corridors. She resolved to count to 10,000, a silent promise to herself that by then it would be safe to emerge. The time she reached 87, shadowy, monstrous shapes began to emerge from the darkness around her. Fear initially seized her, but she quickly quelled it, venturing forward to touch one of the behemoths. It was bone, she realized, ancient and dead, yet she couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that it knew she was there, and that it held no affection for her. She stumbled back into another, whirling around as a jagged tooth snagged and ripped her leather jerkin. She bolted, narrowly avoiding a larger beast, then dashed through the gaping jaws of another to find a door. She squeezed through the narrow opening into an even darker hall. A water dancer, she remembered, could see without eyes. Relying on her sense of touch, she ran her hands along the cold stone walls, reminding herself that all hallways led somewhere. Then, faint noises reached her ears, followed by a dim, flickering light. She paused, peering down, realizing she was standing above a well with steps spiraling downwards. Two figures were ascending the well, their voices echoing eerily. One voice, thick with the accent of the free cities, immediately caught her attention. Her father, she quickly realized, was the subject of their hushed conversation. "The hand will soon learn the truth," one man murmured. "And what will the hand do with the truth?" the other inquired. Only the gods know, the first replied. The hand is not a man to put aside the attempt on his son's life. Soon the wolf and the lion will be at each other's throats. The second man insisted a war now would be premature, that they weren't ready. As they drew closer, Arya could discern more details. The torchbearer was a stout man with a scarred face and a stubble beard. Despite his heavy boots and steel cap, he moved with an uncanny quietness. He seemed oddly familiar, yet Arya couldn't place him. The man with the accent, however, she was certain she'd never met. He was grossly fat with a forked beard, yet moved with the surprising grace of a water dancer. What can possibly be done to prevent a war? The torchbearer asked. The fork-bearded man's voice was a low rumble. If one hand can die, why not a second? The torchbearer countered, insisting that times had changed, that the current hand was not like the previous one. The fork-bearded man remained resolute, asserting their need for more time. The princess was with child, he explained, and the Carl would not stir until his son was born. If the Carl does not bestir himself soon, the torchbearer warned, it may be too late. There are new players in the game. Stannis Baratheon and Lysa Arryn are rumoured to be marshalling their strength. Lord Renly and the Knight of Flowers plan to make Marjorie Tyrell King Robert's new queen. And no one knows what Littlefinger is playing at, he continued. But Eddard Stark worries me most. He has the book and the bastard now, and soon the truth. His wife has also taken the Emp prisoner. Jaime and Lord Tywin will take this for an outrage. The torchbearer claimed that despite his considerable skill, he couldn't maintain control much longer. He agreed to do what he could, but demanded more gold and 50 more birds. The fork-bearded man raised an eyebrow. Surprised, 50 is a lot. Given that they are so young to know their letters, he suggested that if they could only keep their tongues, it would be easier. But the torchbearer dismissed the idea, stating the risk was too great. Arya followed the two men for what felt like an eternity, delving deeper and deeper into the castle's hidden passages, until the dressed stone gave way to rough dirt and timbers. After what felt like miles, the men were gone, and Arya, now truly blind and lost, knew she had no choice but to press forward. Eventually, she found herself knee-deep in stinking water, and finally, at the mouth of a sewer that emptied into the river. So filthy and putrid was she that she stripped off her clothes and swam until the cool water washed away the grime. When she finally looked around, the Red Keep sat majestically on its hill, miles distant. Upon reaching the Red Keep's gate, she demanded entry. The two gold cloaks on guard sneered at her, mistaking her for a beggar. "I'm not a beggar," taunted. "I live here. I want to see my father." One of the guards, "Sof, I want to fuck the queen for all the good it does me." When Arya insisted her father was the hand of the king, one of them lunged to strike her. She deftly dodged him. Shrieking, "I am Arya Stark." Furious, "Lay a hand on me and your heads will end up on spikes. If you need proof, Jory Cassell or Vayon Poole can vouch for me." She then challenged the startled guardsman. "Will you open the gate, or do you need a clap on the head to improve your hearing?" Tom Arden Harwin led Arya to her father's solar, where he was hunched over the largest book Arya had ever seen. His face was stern as he listened to their report. He told her he'd had half his guard searching for her, reminding her she was not to go beyond the gates without his leave. Arya launched into her defense. She had been in the dungeons, which had turned into tunnels. She had no light, and she couldn't go back because of the monsters. Then, hushed, her voice hushed with urgency, she told him about the two men talking about killing him. They had spoken of a book and a bastard, and if one hand could die, why not another? Ned looked confused. Arya described the men and how they'd said the wolf and the lion would eat each other. Everything swirled in Arya's head. She concluded by telling her father she thought one of them was a wizard. She wisely chose not to mention knocking over the prince or how she'd squeezed through a window and found monsters. Ned, seemingly relieved, suggested the men must have been talking about juggling and mummers, adding that there were a dozen troops in King's Landing now. Arya tried to insist they weren't mummers, but he cut her off, stating she shouldn't be spying on people. He then declared that this had gone on long enough, citing the scratches on her arms and her habit of crawling through strange windows after stray cats, and announced his intention to have a word with Syrio. Their conversation was interrupted by the announcement of an arrival from the Night's Watch. Yoren was ushered in. Despite his stooped posture, ugly features, pungent smell, and unwashed clothes, Ned greeted him peasantly. Yoren apologized for the late hour, then remarked that Arya bore a striking resemblance to Ned's son. "I'm a girl," Arya quickly corrected him, then assuming Yoren had come from Winterfell, asked about her brothers and if he could deliver a letter to Jon. She was certain Jon would believe her story about the men in the dungeon. Yoren explained to Ned that he was there to find men for the wall, but also had other news that needed to be shared in private. Ned instructed Desmond to show Arya to her room. Before leaving, Arya quickly confirmed that nothing bad had happened to Jon or her uncle, and Yoren assured her that Jon was fine. As Desmond escorted her to her room, Arya inquired about the number of guards her father had. 50, he replied. Arya then sought assurance that they wouldn't let anyone kill her father. Desmond promised that they guarded him day and night. Arya observed that the Lannisters had many more men, to which Desmond confidently stated that one Northerner was worth 10 Southerners. When she asked about wizards, he simply said, "A wizard died the same as anyone else when you cut his head off."